I am very, very excited that you came to be on Brainstorm Black. I have followed your trajectory for years, literally, like a lot of people have. Found you on social media. I don't even remember how. And then just kind of followed you as you've done your murals, and you're very transparent online. So I'm so glad you're here. I think what you have is a pure gift, as I'm sure many, many, many Austinites and people around the country do. So I just want to jump right into the art, and then we're going to talk about some other things that you've talked about with regard to addiction, how that factors into not only your art, but who you are. So let's just jump right into the art. Let's jump.
Swan dive.
I think most people are really, really familiar with your mural on 12th Street, 12th End. I say Chacon, because I grew up over there, and that's how we pronounced it. And then I hear people say Chacon. So the mural there is, there's really no words to describe. It's massive and it's gorgeous.
Thank you.
Is it one of the first ones you did? Tell us a little bit about who you are, first of all.
My name is Chris Rogers, and I grew up in Hilton Head, South Carolina. Tiny little island off the coast of South Carolina, only 12 miles long. So small town, and raised by an amazing single mother who encouraged me and nurtured anything that I was even remotely positively interested in. And she believed in me well before I ever believed in myself. And she made it abundantly clear that, you know, I didn't have to do anything to earn her love. And she loved me unconditionally. I remember one time, this will just give you a great idea of her, is she used to wake me and my sister up at night sometime to, like, she was always like dropping gems here and there. Sometimes it'd be after school, but sometimes it hit her in the middle of the night. She'd be like, Chris, Jackie, wake us up, school night. And this one time she called us down there, and me and my sister, I'm probably like 8, she's 10. And my mom says to us, yo, Chris, Jackie, I want you to know that I love you no matter what. And whatever you choose to do in life, just be the best that you possibly can be. I remember that. Like, I don't have like that many crystal clear memories, but I do remember that I barely slept that night because it felt so good.
Wow.
And I knew that prior to that point, but I just remember that, and that allowed me to dream big and dream beyond my means, dream beyond where I was, and, you know, just hope for things that were in my imagination and bring them into reality. And so that's what I was raised with. My father wasn't around because of his addiction, but they were high school sweethearts. You know, my mom was white, my father's black, in Northern Virginia in early 70s. So that was love.
Yep.
My mother left
love
home.
And courage.
Oh yeah, my mother left home at 17 because of, you know, some of the impediments that were at home. Because of that, they loved each other very, very much. My mom always made that abundantly clear. But he wasn't around. But he was a untrained artist. He was a boxer and a wrestler in the Army, and he was an alcoholic. And I had a natural propensity for all three of those things.
Did you spend any time with him?
Nah, I met him once. My mother took us to DC or Baltimore, where they're from, when I was 11. That was the first time I ever met him. We'd speak on like Christmas and stuff like that, but he never got help. You know, he was living with my grandmother and still just, you know, doing what he was doing. And so that's one thing I definitely love about, one of the things I love about my mother. She had, trust me, she had every reason to run my father's name through the dirt.
Yeah.
She never did, not to me and my sister. It wasn't until much later that she let us in on like some PG reasons why he wasn't in my life. And that was enough for me to like be like, I don't want to be anything like him. And I was definitely scared to drink, which I didn't do for a while.
Yeah.
I had opportunities to, but I didn't until I was almost 16.
We're going to talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
A couple of quick questions. How do you know your dad was an artist?
My mother told me.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
Did you see any of his art ever?
I didn't see any of his art, but she said he was always like in his spare time he'd be sketching and drawing and stuff like that.
Yeah. Your mother, you said she passed away.
2009.
And I asked you before, had she seen you reach the level that you've reached right now? Because honestly, people know who you are here, definitely. I'm sure they do around the country, and you may even be known internationally with the work that you've done.
Sure.
So did she get a chance to see that?
No, I was fresh out of college. Not fresh. I was a couple years. I graduated in 2006 from college. So I was just back in town, back in Hilton Head, bartending, waiting tables, drawing here and there. But I was figuring things out, you know. But like I said, my mother, everything that is going on right now, my mother saw.
Yeah.
Well before. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
It's really hard to put it into words, but she knew. She knew, and her belief helped me believe. And you know, she's very much aware of things right now. She's one of my main guides. I talk to her like I'm talking to you right now.
Yeah. What does
For
she
real.
say to you?
She lets me know that everything's gonna be okay, that I'm doing a great job, and she's proud of me.
Yeah.
And to just keep dreaming big and sharing everything that, you know, she's taught me and that I'm learning along the way.
That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I believe that too.
Yeah.
I believe that too. So let's talk about your art. You do murals, you do portraits, you do all kinds of things, but I want to focus quickly on the murals. Again, the one on 12th Street is called We Rise,
We Rise,
correct?
yep.
And again, it's massive. I told you before, I grew up right down the street from there. I used to walk to school, L.L. Campbell Elementary, right there. And, you know, that was however many years ago that was. And it's amazing to see that there now, that art. Tell us a little bit about it. Yeah, where did that come from?
Well, I moved to Austin, Texas in 2012 from South Carolina. And I had no bearings when I moved out here. I just had two friends, one from college and one that I grew up with. Those are the only people I knew in town. But as far as like connects and this, that, I didn't know anybody. So I would just set up on South Congress with all the foot traffic there with my easel and paint. And sometimes I'd sell, sometimes I wouldn't. Most of the time I wouldn't sell. But every time I would set up, I'd meet people. And I happened to meet this couple that was opening a gallery at 12th and Chacon. And they liked my art, and they told me I could paint whatever I want up there. It wasn't a paid gig, but I saw the wall in the intersection, and I was like,
Wow.
let's go. So, and I didn't know much about the East Side other than, you know, the information that you knew about it, that, you know, most people, black and brown people, were mandated to live over there at one point. And so I wanted to kind of speak to that culture a little bit. So the first rendition, it was two renditions that I did. The first rendition was in 2013. And that one was, you know, just a crazy mashup. It still had a lot of the, you know, black and brown figures like James Brown, Michael Jackson, Salvador Dali's a big, someone that I look up to as far as my art. So I put him in there, but I was definitely, my intention was to bring some color to that area and some vibrancy to that area, because at the time, it must have been a little bit different when you were growing up, but at the time it was not a pretty place to be. To be honest with you, I didn't work on it at night. That's how it was.
Yes.
That block was hot.
I mean, that's the truth.
Let's keep it real.
I mean, if you can stand there, and people do, and look at what you've created. Well, you were talking about the first rendition of it, so I'm going to let you keep talking about that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't even really know what I was going to paint. I had a general idea, and that was the first time it wasn't the first mural I've done, but the first mural I did here in Austin, Texas. And so I was literally just showing up and figuring it out as I went. But I'll tell you this much, the payment for me was the amount of people that would stop by from that area that grew up there like you and would literally thank me, and some people even had tears in their eyes.
Oh yeah, I
It's
believe
like, man,
that.
thank you for doing this here.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, hadn't even been here a year yet, and to have that impact on people like that spoke to me. That's big. That's bigger than money. That's why I do art.
Yeah.
Is to affect people in a positive way. And so that was an amazing experience, and I knew that right there, especially when I finished, that wall meant something to people there in that area.
It did.
And so it lasted for about 3.5 years, and then that's when the gentrification on the east side really set in, and started seeing businesses go, people go, and murals started getting painted over. And that mural got painted over one night, just whitewashed. There was a new business that moved in there from the gallery. The gallery closed, and there was like this upscale boutique that was moving in there, and they just painted over. And I knew that anybody that's going to paint over that is going to upset some people.
Oh yeah.
Right?
It was a fixture.
I know.
I mean, it was transformational for not even just those people in that side of town. It was shocking.
Right.
When the news came out that it had been painted over.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I found out the day after, and all I did was like a little Facebook post talking about the experience I had with that mural and the effect that it had on people and the payment that I really appreciated. I shared that in a post, and that went viral. The news picked it up, everything picked it up, and long story short, within like a month, they had me back there painting another rendition. But this is what's amazing is the first rendition that I did, I finished that January 2nd or 3rd of 2014, got sober on the 14th.
Oh wow.
So I was still drinking when I finished that first rendition. Right?
Yeah.
And after I got sober, every time I would walk past that mural, I'd be like, man, I really feel like going back into that, dude, because I'm me again. I have my whole faculties. I'm connected again. I have something to say again. This isn't just, it's not hollow anymore. And that's how it was with the addiction. Like my art became hollow.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, that happened. And then I got an opportunity to not only go back into it, but now I have 3.5, almost 4 years of sober evolution artistically. My experience with recovery, we rise, like I had no chance. And trust me, I'm sure you understand this well. I tried quitting so many times that I gave up. I'm talking about for years trying to quit, always with the same result, me drunk and a little bit further away from anything or anyone I ever wanted to be. And I was broken. That's what addiction does. It breaks people.
It breaks you.
Addicts are they're not weak people.
Yeah.
They're not immoral people. They're sick people. And I was beyond sick. And
Some people even say that addicts, many of them, are some of the most highly intelligent. So it's not about any of that. It's not about being...
I think it's addicts that usually say that. I'll take it.
Yes,
I'll take it though.
I take it. Yeah, yeah.
But what's beautiful is I had the opportunity to go back into that full faculties, and I got to speak to not only what I was trying to say in the first place, but now I get to really take it a step deeper with all the gentrification, with all the people that were displaced from their homes, not just the neighborhood. Like, this is where you were forced to live, like, and you guys grew up generationally against all odds and made this home, and now you got to get out of here. I can only imagine. Well, I do know how that feels. That's what it was like in South Carolina. That got gentrified too. I grew up in that. So I did understand that, but what was beautiful is I got to speak to my experience in recovery.
Yeah.
And that's really the fulcrum of each mural that I paint, is I imbue some of the lessons that I've learned in recovery. Like We Rise, that's all recovery. I had no hopes of rising out of my addiction without other people. I needed to be around other people that understood, where I didn't have to explain myself, where there was no judgment. I didn't have to subscribe to anything. I didn't have to believe in anything. All I had to do is be there. broken as I was, and I'm a card-carrying member, I got as much say to be here as someone who's been here for 40 years.
Yep.
I needed that level of acceptance in order for me to sit still and start to absorb truth. Because I've been living in fantasy so long, I couldn't tell the difference.
Right.
Up was down, left was right, and it was the people in the room that allowed me to, and this is what shook me in that first meeting too. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like, oh, these guys have been sober for 10 years, awesome, yay. No, it was people that were being honest, talking about that stuff that I was guilt-ridden over, that stuff that I was ashamed of, the stuff that I hated myself for, the stuff that I didn't even like to let myself think. They were like, yeah, my name's so-and-so, and this is what I do, blah, da, 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 da. And I'm like, what are these, what's going on here? This is the first meeting. I'm like, what is going on here?
They're talking about it.
And they're laughing about it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know now it's not like a laughter of commiseration. It was laughter because it tickles you, because it's like, I thought I was the only one. What? You too?
That's what keeps a lot of people from talking about any addiction or any issue like that, is that fear that they're alone, that they're the only ones, and not getting that other people understand, and that community can help you. I want to go back quickly though, because that does give me chills, and I knew that, but to hear you talk about that, how that mural was painted over, and in sobriety you were able to go back and create what's there now.
Yeah, I never prayed for that,
Yeah,
I never asked for that.
that's what I was going to say.
These are just thoughts that I have. I was like, man, I really love to. And the last 9.5 years are jam-packed with experiences like that, where too many things are lining up perfectly for it to be coincidence.
Right.
Wait, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the stuff that helps me build my faith. What were you going to say?
No, that's it. It's something beyond coincidence. Something beyond, this happened. That just smacks of someone reaching in and saying, and then when you notice that, that's the important part, is you have to notice it. Because I think that happens in our lives a lot, and many of us just don't notice those things. So they don't change us, or they don't, but you notice that. You notice it.
I notice it, but also I and this is another thing that I've gotten back from recovery, is belief. Like there was a time where I did believe, and I wasn't raised religious, but there was a time I believed in something.
Yeah.
I would pray I would talk to something. I used to, for instance, if I wanted something to work out in my life, or I was going through something, I'd draw a little comic strip of my life, how I wanted it to resolve. I'm talking back in like middle school. I'd do stuff like that, and I lost that in my addiction.
Yeah.
And so being back in sobriety has given me a pathway back to believing in having, I don't even like the word faith, it's been used so many times, but having confidence. I can confide in something that is infinite, that's always there. I don't need evidence. I don't need to feel a certain way. There's just like a deep, profound knowing that's detached from anything external. It's just there, infinite.
Yeah. Let's talk about a couple more murals. I know the one after George Floyd's death. To me, to ask, okay, where did that come from? To me, you could probably talk for days about where that idea, that concept of that mural came from. But can you tell us a little bit about that? What were you experiencing when you...
That's such a cool story. It's such unfortunate times. But I say this, that if you're black and brown, like, unfortunately, that's nothing new.
Yeah.
I've seen that a million times. Some of my earliest memories are seeing those photographs, and black and white photographs of black people hung.
Right.
With white people standing there like it's a picnic. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Branded into my memory. So that's what I know. And so seeing George Floyd, it was like, it hurt, but that was, what was beautiful about that moment is you heard it around the world, and it wasn't just black and brown people that were upset about it.
Right.
And I thought it was a beautiful moment to call attention to not just another problem, but what's at the source. And that, you know, very much like addiction. My operating system was off. It didn't matter where I lived, what I was drinking, when I was drinking, or this, that, and the other. Like, I was off. The way I was responding was off. My operating system was off. And until I could get that in line, I had no hopes of dealing with the reality. I had no hopes of making some consistent change. And I see no difference between that and what's going on with the world. We rise, we need each other. And what allowed me to take those first ginger steps into reality was I had a room filled with people that normally don't mix, that had one primary purpose. Celebrating the differences, but we're here for the real parallels. We're human and we're trying to get better. And I really feel like that is the antidote to literally everything we're experiencing right now, is us coming together, and that we are we're the healing that we all need. It's not going to come from the broken system.
Right.
That system is working. It's not even broken. It's perfect.
It's working the way it's
humming.
supposed to work.
It's humming.
Yes.
It's working so well.
Yes.
But we as people can come together, and when we do that, anything's possible.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how it's going to work out. I'm not a politician, but I do know that when we come together, miraculous things happen.
Yep.
Beyond our wildest conceptions. And that was what I had going into that mural at Native Hostel, We Can't Breathe. But what was amazing about that is, again, I didn't have that whole thesis written out. I just knew I wanted to paint something, and I wanted to say something more than R.I.P. George Floyd with some angel wings. Like, I wanted to say something. And what helped me build that thesis were the conversations I had while I was working on it. Because I started it, George Floyd was murdered on a Monday. I started it on Wednesday.
Wow.
On the Monday, I hit up social media and I was like, who's got a nice wall, a nice big wall with good visibility? And Native Hostel hit me up like 15 minutes later. I started talking to some of the owners over there and just talking about what was going on in the world. And that's what helped me start to piece together. And people would stop as I was working on that mural, and we'd have conversations. A lot of people that we normally wouldn't mix with either.
Right.
One of the most fire conversations I had during that was, it was a white lady dressed to the nines. She was there to party at Native Hostel, and she walked up to me. I was sitting looking at the mural. She walked up to me, and her opening was something to the effect that she didn't, and respectfully, she was like, I don't know why Colin Kaepernick is kneeling. And I took that as an opportunity to have a conversation. We had an amazing conversation.
Yeah.
Because here was someone from the other side of the aisle that we normally be like going like this.
Right.
We're like, what do you mean you don't know what he's, protesting?
I know.
What are you, crazy? I could have easily gone down that road.
Yes.
She asked me sincerely why.
Yeah.
And I just spoke to her about how I feel and my experience.
And I appreciate you for that.
Yeah.
And I think that is what I deal with that a lot. I'm no expert on things, but I have a lot of these conversations, and my white friends and white people will ask, I don't mind that. That opens up a channel of conversation between us, and we actually both walk away with something, or in my experience, I'm walking away with stuff that I hadn't thought about. And it, there are things that I know happened. And so it's not about that. It's not about debating facts or what happened in the past or enslavement or any of that. But it's about understanding why someone may not understand. Or, if it's a diehard racist, if it's a neo-Nazi type, that's something that I'm not dealing with. But most of the people that I talk to are not that.
Yeah.
They're people who really, they just need to talk it out.
This is why I go back to recovery. It's a room filled with people that normally don't mix, and what allowed me to connect to these people was being open to them.
Yeah.
and finding the parallels. And the parallels are all that we're human. Like that's what floors me is like I can listen to you talk about your experience and like maybe I haven't even experienced that at all, but I know how you feel. And then we connect, and that was another part of that thesis of the George Floyd mural. It's like it's impossible for me to want to harm somebody I see myself in.
Absolutely.
I couldn't sit on somebody's neck I see myself in. 9.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It's impossible. But if you're they or them or it, well, now there's some friction.
Yes. Yes. Couple of more things, couple of more murals. Well, let's just do this one. You're working on one right now. Do you want to talk about the one you're working on now?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. There's I've been working on a mural series for famous comedian Tom Segura and his wife Christina Pajinski. They have a podcast called Your Mom's House. And it's hilarious and ridiculous, but it's one of the most popular podcasts in the world. And they have a brand new studio here in South Austin. And I just finished the first of a series of 3 murals over there. And this first mural was, again, a custom piece for them. They're both from LA, and they wanted something that would speak from their transition from LA to Austin, Texas. So I had a bunch of musicians up there and artists that they love from both LA and Austin. And this one was named 123 to infinity. I was born at 1:23 in the morning. That's when I took my first breath. And infinity is speaking to energy and how it can neither be created nor destroyed. It just keeps going on. And one of the silver linings that I've gained through my mother's passing is that she left it out all on the field, meaning when she passed away, she was empty. Every single day, this woman, I watched her. She was a soccer mom, the hockey mom, the piano recital mom. She was doing people's taxes. She was at least working 2 jobs, plus sometimes just to help me and my sister get that little extra, especially when I was going to prep school and college, like always pulling strings for everybody, bending over backwards with a smile on her face. I watched her do it my entire life. And it used to really irritate me when I was young because she'd get run down.
Yeah.
And I remember there was one time in particular where she was like falling asleep at the dinner table at night. She was working on somebody's taxes and she looked run down, and I woke her up and I'm like, Mom, go to bed. What are you doing? I'm like 12, 13. I was like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm doing something, I'm doing somebody's taxes. And I'm like, Mom, why are you doing this? Like, why? And she sat up and like looked me right in the eye and she was like, Chris, because it makes me happy. I had no clue what she was talking about at 12, but also had zero retort. I had no retort. And it wasn't until later that I really, and trust me, she's getting smarter every single day that goes by. But that's one thing that I get now. You get when you give. And when it's all said and done, that's why there's a big picture of Kobe Bryant in this mural.
Yes.
And there's energy going all over, lines going everywhere, and it's that famous picture of Kobe holding the jersey and like yelling, and there's like it looks like he's kind of deteriorating, and all the lines are going down into the bottom of the composition, and then they reappear in these parallel lines in the middle of the composition going back up to the top, which is this skyline of LA. And all the colors that were making up Kobe were broken down into the spectrum that's going up, making the spectrum of LA, which is bringing you back towards the beginning of the composition where it's a sunset.
Wow.
So the end is the beginning and the end of the composition is a sunrise.
I'm so glad you just explained all that, because I was staring at that image yesterday, and of course I'm looking at Kobe's arm. course, I got none of that because I hadn't read anything. I don't know if you
Sure.
explained that before. I didn't see it. But I staring at the arm, and I was feeling some kind of way. I mean, it was just like,
Yeah.
I,
He's emptying himself.
yeah, that's beautiful.
He's emptying himself, and that's what I'm learning about when it's all said and done. Is it's not about having statues and plaques, and because all that stuff's gonna go, but how we live forever is we give ourselves to other people. Like if you're looking at me right now, if you're hearing me speak, you're hearing my mother. She's in me, and anybody that I come in contact with, you're experiencing her. And so it's not about me being remembered forever, but being a part of somebody. Like, and people remember how you made them feel.
They sure do, yeah.
Like I had conversations with people that met my mother one time and didn't know she was my mom. She was like, Susie's your mom? Oh, I love her. All she had one conversation.
Yeah, she sounds amazing. I mean,
she was just full of love, man. She was full of love, and she
Yeah.
understood how to give it.
and you can, people talk about their moms a lot. You feel it when you talk about your mother. You feel what reverence and love and all of that you have for her.
I do.
Yeah. I want to switch gears just a little bit.
Sure.
Something else that you do a lot around town, and you may do it beyond Austin, is the live painting. Where do you do that? Is it a place people can come and see you, or do people hire you to come and do the live painting?
I usually get hired to do it nowadays, but it's still nerve-wracking every single time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just there's another podcast that I paint live on. It's called Kill Tony, another very popular podcast, and they just had their 10th anniversary last night.
Oh, wow.
At the Moody Theater.
Ah.
So it was like, I don't know, what, 3,000 people?
Oh my! That you were painting in front of?
Yeah, and you know, Joe Rogan and Tom Segura, the guy from
Yes.
Your Mom's House, they were the guests.
Oh my God!
It was insane.
Who did you paint?
I painted the two comedians that do the podcast Kill Tony are Tony Hinchcliffe and Brian Redband. So
Nice.
I painted the two of them.
Did you meet Joe Rogan?
Oh yeah.
Had you met him before?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Is he cool?
He's amazing.
Yeah. Okay.
He's honestly one of the cooler and nicer and more down to earth than you can imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so are you. And the art, the live painting that you do, again, for most people, the idea of getting in front of thousands of people, 10 people, and doing that art right there is amazing. You were nice enough to invite me to your studio. And you told me I could shoot whatever I wanted to shoot. So I shot some stuff, and I'm sure a lot of people haven't been to your studio. So I want to let them see what your studio looks like, if that's okay.
Of course. I love doing my stuff in my studio. I need my alone time, but if I spend too much time alone, I can get too critical. I can overthink things. I can get into that negativism for real, and it gets to the point where I get paralysis, and I can think my way out of even doing something I could do in my sleep. So live art is it's like cold water in the face. There's no time to think. You just got to get into the action, and it gets me back into flow. And when I go back to my studio, I have that flow again.
Do you get nervous at all?
Performing in front of people, I get nervous every single time, without fail, to varying degrees, obviously, but I'd say at least the first 15 minutes, when I'm painting, my mind's going nuts. Like every insecurity, every negative thought that you could possibly think about, it's going through my head. But I've just learned over the years that, those thoughts they fade, they subside as I paint. Confusing part about addiction is that when you cross this threshold into addiction, everything's upside down. Left is right, right is wrong, and it can even convince you that I need alcohol to do something that I've been doing since I was a child. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so, taking it back to live painting, that's what I swan dive into, man. It's painting in spite of those thoughts and those feelings, and it's very much like meditation. Like when you just sit still and don't take the bait on those thoughts, and you just observe them and let them flow through you like clouds through the sky. They pass, and then you're left with this peace that's even more profound and more real than what I thought I found in drinking.
Give me 2 or 3 words from you, just words that describe your style of art.
Mm-hmm. Light, energy, inspiration. Light, energy, inspiration.
Anyone who follows you knows that at any point you might scroll and there you are having a one-on-one talk with the public about your addiction. Mm. And that resonated with me because, as I told you before, I went through issues with drinking, and it lasted for about 15 years. The first time I ever drank, I was 30. Okay. And then
off to the races.
Off to the races. Yeah. There was a connection right away. I thought, oh, this is what's been missing. Mm-hmm. And went through the whole thing. Mm-hmm. I was someone who was fortunate. I worked with an amazing group of people at a nonprofit downtown, and I told them I needed to go to rehab, take time off, and I was fortunate. They were loving people, my family, loving, and I went to rehab. I was there, and I was able to move beyond that. And the day I got out, like a lot of people who get out of rehab, I got this tattoo. I love sunflowers, and it says one day at a time, because that's really what it is. Mm-hmm. And my daughter will remind me whenever I'm getting into my head, she'll say, tattoo, Mom, look at the tattoo, and I'll look at it. But, so I get it. Particularly too, with men, and again specifically with black men, we're talking a lot about this right now, with the gender issues and stuff, but black men, so many of them, they want to come off as hard, and they want to come off as they got it all together, and it's really hard sometimes for a lot of them to talk openly about their problems. Mm-hmm. And to see someone like you, I mean, you're tall, you're a big guy, to see someone like you really being transparent and open about your addiction, the struggles you had, that's beautiful. How do you do that? How can you be that vulnerable with something that personal? Yeah,
I mean, I got some strong attributes from my father for sure, but that's my mom 100%. She, her art was speaking. Her art was teaching. She could connect to anybody, anybody on any level, and make them feel like they're the only person in the room, and really make them feel comfortable to be exactly who they are right there in that moment. And she was just very good at expressing her feelings. And so I've always had that propensity towards emotional intelligence. There was a long time where I thought there was something wrong with me.
Because you were able to...
Well, it was just like too feminine.
Oh.
Because that was one of the things that made me feel like I didn't have the manual to life, is my father not being around.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to be a man.
Right, yeah.
Thank God for sports. Like a lot of and this is my mother also pulling strings in the background, she put me in front of men that were positive. A lot of the coaches that I had were like father figures. Treated me like a son. I needed that. So I was like, again, there was something that I thought that was wrong with me, and it wasn't until I was an adult that I realized, like, nah, that's a full spectrum.
Yeah.
It's not feminine, it's not masculine, it's human to feel.
Yes.
It's human to feel, and that was another thing, just like my belief in something greater than myself. Feeling was something I lost in my addiction.
Well, you're numbing it. You're for me anyway, I was numbing everything. Anything that I felt, the alcohol.
It doesn't start out like that.
No.
Doesn't start out like that, but it's just like, you know how boa constrictors, like big snakes, how they kill big prey?
Yeah.
They wrap around them, right?
Yeah.
And anytime that prey exhales a little bit, they tighten a little bit, and a little bit, and a little bit. And that's exactly how addiction is. Over years, in the moment, you're like, I'm good, I'm fine. Nah. And you kind of come to in some place where it's like, I don't even know how I got here. Yep. What is even going on? And it's been so long since I dealt with anything that it just feels like an endless horizon of fires to put out. So I'm stuck. Forget it. And you kind of just sink into it, And so that's why a lot of people, if they do get the opportunity to get sober, they're so broken. Their hope is so gone. And why it's so important for to be around other people, to be able to see themselves in other people, be like, oh, okay, all right, I know this person understands me, and I understand them. Maybe there's a way that I can do this. Like, I quit a billion times, and I never once felt hopeful. I never once felt inspired. I never once felt like, you know what, maybe I could do this one day at a time. Until I got sober. Until I started to go to meetings on a regular basis. Until I started to get honest, did I start to let things in. And at the same time, let things out and just feel. That's the hardest part about this whole deal. Still, the most challenging part about this whole deal is feeling. Experiencing something and let it pass through me and not freak out. And not shut myself in the room and, start casting spells. Like, just, I'm just a little sad right now. We're just going to be sad for a little bit. It's all good. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I learned, is anything that's coming up is on its way out.
Yeah.
And anything I feel I grow from.
I still cast spells, though.
But at least you have something on tapping you on the shoulder, like, hey,
yes.
Charlotte.
Yes.
Let go.
Yes.
Let go.
It's true.
What a relief.
Yeah.
What a relief to know that I don't need the world to act a certain way in order for me to be free. I don't need you to forgive me in order for me to be free. I don't need anything. I don't need a certain amount of money. I don't need a certain amount of followers. Anything external. I don't need any of it in order for me to be free. To thine own self be true. I got to be honest with myself, at least one other person. Boom. And then once I get that piece, then what happens? I give it. Hot potato. And tell me if that's something how about this? Growing up, we didn't have anything hung on the wall but an old watercolor painting of this like it was called Three Mallards. It was like this dude duck hunting in this overcast sky. It was a watercolor. It was beautiful, but like really sad kind of. And then my mother had a poem of it was a Serenity Prayer.
Oh, wow.
Right by the door. Never knew it. Serenity Prayer.
Yeah, yeah. What do you mean you never knew it?
I never knew what it meant.
Oh,
I never
gotcha.
connected. I was
Okay.
like, Serenity Prayer,
Yes, of
whatever.
course.
And like, that's like,
Yeah.
I say it every morning
now
without
you live
fail.
by it,
Yeah,
right.
that's how I boot up. That's how I start my entire day.
Yeah, yeah. Do you hear from people when you're, again, what you do on social media, the way you share like that, the encouragement, you tell your story, do you hear back from people on how
Yeah.
you're helping them?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the most gratifying things. That's why I do it.
Yeah.
To know that it's affected somebody. Because why I do it, my ember for that is, again, I wish I would have seen somebody that was doing something like an artist or somebody that had some life in them,
Yeah.
that was speaking about stuff that I could relate to, because all I thought recovery was not drinking. It's going to be boring, gray, like everybody's eating filet mignon and I'm over here eating some old beef jerky.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Well, that's a big fear. And then you talked about creatives, which we've had conversations
Yeah.
about. It's a fear that if
I'm not going to be
you
creative.
stop with the substance, that's going to take
That's
away.
how sick it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're living proof that that makes no sense, because you're putting out some of the most amazing art. We get to drive up the street and see it, you know, like a museum. We can stand out there and
Right.
look at it. So you're getting rid of those myths and beliefs
Right.
daily.
Right, but I'd say that the amount of negative thoughts that I experience and negative feelings hasn't changed at all. There are just other voices that are louder now, and I have other experiences besides that. But I mean, I could still get locked in my head. I mean, when I was working on this last mural that I finished at your mom's house studio, like 2 weeks before I finished it, I was working on it for like 4 hours at night, and literally every time I picked up my brush and pressed it against the wall, I felt like I was messing up. And it got to a point where I threw my stuff down, went out to my car, and was screaming F-U-C-K at the top of my lungs repeatedly.
Yes.
Right? Because I was just like, but how is that any different? This is what I experienced there is one of the main reasons I drank, is to avoid feelings like that. But what happened after I let that steam out is I prayed, I went for a walk, I called my sponsor, he didn't pick up, I left a message, let him know honestly how I was feeling, and when I went back, I was in the zone. So it took me 5 hours to let go.
Does that still surprise you that you're able to do that?
It's not like I'm like, whoa, where'd that come from? But yeah, I'm like, oh man, yeah. I'm reminded of it on a regular basis.
Yeah.
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 But that's so cool. I say, I mean, you've heard of like a pink cloud?
Yeah.
Okay, like the pink cloud, that's not free. I quit 1 billion times. Never felt a pink cloud. It wasn't until I got into some action that, it wasn't until I started going to meetings on a regular basis. It wasn't until I started being honest on a regular basis and asking people for help and revealing myself on a regular basis did I get that relief, that space. And it's not, again, like I don't have these negative thoughts, but now I have a choice. And you know what I'm talking about. Like I did not have that choice. It was thought, act.
Right. Right.
Or it was just act.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now it's like...
It takes control.
It does. It does.
You really are... I was kind of helpless to it. And I can just remember, I mean, it was 15 years of it, of solo, I was very functional, but I had a problem. And it wasn't me. I knew that it wasn't me, but I didn't have control. I lost control.
Right.
And I'm grateful that at some point I'd hit a bottom that I just said, that's it. Now, I heard you on another podcast, and you talked about events that we don't have to go into here.
Yeah.
People can Google it and watch it, because it is crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the stuff you went through.
Of course.
So we're lucky,
Beyond.
because once you start
Beyond.
drinking like that, anything can happen.
Of course.
To any of us,
Yeah.
So, I recommend people need to hear that, because the person that you are, it just, it's really, what's the word? Not empowering for us. It's just beautiful to see. You're so relatable. Lots of times we might listen to people talk about their issues, addictions, whatever, but they're so far away, so far removed that we can't identify with them.
Right.
But you are so open and such a nice person that it's really remarkable what you've done and what you've shared. And so we appreciate that.
I appreciate you, 100%.
My last question for you, and you got to answer it. You're not going to want to answer it, but you have to. What is your favorite color?
Purple.
Purple. That was quick. Why purple?
I don't know. It feels good.
Yeah.
It does, yeah. I mean, colors are vibrations just like sounds. And, a paradigm shift for me creatively was, obviously getting honest and being open and vulnerable. But that creativity is something that I absorb, something that I receive. I'm not the creator. I'm a co-creator at best. And what makes me a better receiver is my ability to be honest, but also being in the right vibration. And I feel like, there are certain things that I like to smell when I'm about to, like I'll light some certain kind of incense, or I'll have some essential oils, or obviously some things I like to wear, certain colors. And sometimes it's a lot of color, like these shoes right here. Yeah. And sometimes it's black with just a little flash of color. But like, I try to, whatever I'm feeling at the time, that's what I try to highlight and galvanize myself around, so I can create from that. From an honest place. I think the most powerful art that anybody can do is their authentic self. Whatever's really in the heart. Going back to recovery. What am I really trying to say? What am I really feeling? Forget what other people think. Forget what's going to sell. Forget what I even think. What am I feeling? Because there was a time when I was a kid where I just pick up a pen and start making marks. And that's in every single one of us. And so every time, I'm glad you caught that picture of me as a kid, because that's why it's in my studio.
Yeah.
I look at that and I'm like, all right, yep, I see you. Anything that I'm thinking that's so important, or da-da-da-da-dee-da-da, it's like, forget it all. Let it all go. And I say a little prayer before I paint. I say, it doesn't matter if I'm working at a live thing like last night in front of 3,000 people, a mural, or by myself. I say, God, thank you for this opportunity to be creative. Help me let go. Help me be honest, and I give it all to you. And I don't hear anything, but I feel in my heart, it's like a whisper that comes over me, and it says, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Because that's what messes me up. When I'm not in the zone, when I'm screaming fuck repeatedly at my car window, I'm caring about everything. I got my kung fu grip sunk into everything. And so I don't ask for anything specific from God other than to help me let go, because I know that's what's impeding me on a regular basis. It's not my mom passed away. It's not the bank account, or whether I'm in a relationship or not, or what that person thinks. Me.
Yeah.
I think I need to let go. If I'm not the problem, there is no solution.
If I'm not the problem,
there is no solution.
Yeah. I want to thank you for, again, there are lots of young kids out there, young men who have someone like you to look up to. people who are struggling with addiction. And again, in our community, that's an issue. It's been an issue. You're someone that if they follow you and listen to you, you're offering that help. And that, to me, that's legend. That's amazing. You are giving back. So thank you for coming over and talking to us. And we're going to keep following you. Want to see the next mural and the next mural.
It's coming.
And yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. We'll see you on the next episode of Brainstorm Black.